So, all right, next question we got. I'm gonna stay in the Big 12. I'm gonna switch up the order just a little bit. I know this is gonna throw T.O. off. You just saw him get nervous right there. But Baylor, we didn't really touch on them too much. They're coming off of their national title, but they're losing so much of the talent and the leaders and the heart and the soul of what made this program what it was the last 2 years. Mark Vital's gone, Jared Butler's gone, Davion Mitchell's gone. I think that as much as Scott Drew has built something there, it was those people in that locker room that made the difference more than anything else. So my question to you, and Tio, we're going to go to you first on this one. Can Baylor continue to win at the same level they've been winning at without those three guys involved? Go ahead.
So your three guys, did you include Maceo Teague?
Four guys. Yeah, throw them in.
Four guys. So those four guys, obviously, it makes it really difficult because that's three guys that can break you down off the dribble. And Kenjo is really the only guy that has proven the ability to do that on this Baylor team. And look, Baylor's got pieces. They don't have as many dynamic pieces with the ball as Baylor had last year. I think that's significant. And then you also look at Mark Vital, I thought was so important to that team because he could literally guard 1 through 5. And then he just, I mean, you saw in the championship game against Gonzaga, he just beasted everybody. Now, are you going to have that? You might. Tchamwa Tchatchoua, he is a heck of a defender. He is a heck of an athlete. I'm not sure he can switch 1 through 5, but he could be that energy piece that Vital was. He was significant. I also think to say they're going to win in the same manner, to say they're going to win a national championship, that rarely, if ever.
I'm not saying, so to be clear, I'm not putting that level of expectation on them. I'm saying, is this going to continue to be a top 5 to 10 team without those guys? Because that's kind of like, I think that's a fair expectation for a program. Like programs at that level, you're going to have years where you're a top 10 team. You're going to have years where you're the best team in the country. It's just kind of like however the pieces happen to fit that season. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the way they're recruiting, I would assume, yes. I mean, they have a couple of freshmen, or one just towards ACL. It's awful news.
Yo, breaking news again, Fanta. Were you aware of this?
Thank you. I subscribe to Oglesby Plus. You only break SoCon realignment and ACL news. What a thrill! Man.
Yeah. Make sure you subscribe to that one.
Okay, so I have a hot take on this. Can I give you guys my hot take?
Oh no!
On the SoCon or Baylor?
Baylor. So
okay, just making sure.
My hot take is that, you know how we spent the entirety of last season talking about how great Gonzaga was and how they had a chance to go undefeated and how they might be one of the best college basketball teams ever. My take is that if Baylor does not have their COVID shutdown in the middle of February, remember they were out for 3 weeks. They didn't play for 3 weeks. There was a 23-day stretch where they did not practice for 21 days.
Sure.
If they don't have that shutdown, we're not talking about Gonzaga as potentially being one of the best basketball teams, best college basketball teams we've ever seen. We're talking about Baylor. Before that happened, Baylor went into Texas and won by, I think it was like 19 points. And after that game, the next morning, you woke up and they were ranked above Gonzaga on KenPom. And at that time, right, like that's when they were just kind of hitting their stride. And my take is that if that doesn't happen, we're having a conversation about Baylor as the best college basketball team of all time. I think they probably end up going undefeated throughout the season. And I think that we would have looked up in April, and what we would have said is, wow, no one was able to keep it within 20 points of them in the NCAA tournament. This might be the best college basketball team that we've seen in the one and done modern era of the sport. And so putting any level of expectation near that on this group they have right now, I think is just completely unrealistic. What I will say is this. I do think that culture is real there. I do think that what Scott Drew has built is real. And I do think that it's going to be a place where you can get guys like a James Akinjo, who might have been, something of a knucklehead at previous spots. We'll phrase it nicely. I think you can get them into that program, and it can kind of help them realize their potential a little bit, if that makes a little bit of sense. So I'm all in on this Baylor team continuing to be a top 10 caliber program for the long term, as long as Scott Drew decides that he wants to stay in Waco.
So a leper can change?
I don't think that this is Akinjo playing differently. I think this is Akinjo being a different kind of person. Like, look,
he's being surrounded by a better culture.
Fanta,
like,
you know this.
Like
you covered
his standard is different at Baylor than it was at some of his previous spots.
And
the thing with Akinjo is, if you ask other stops that he was at, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people that will tell you that he was a little bit of an asshole, right? And I think that getting him in a culture at Baylor where the level of competitiveness and the level of expectation and the level of focus on the sport is going to be akin to what Akinjo is as a person, I think that that's going to be much, much better for him. Georgetown was a bad fit in terms of the focus of what a lot of those kids had off the floor. Arizona was a bad fit because it was a roster full of Europeans that have never been around a kid like James Akinjo before in terms of his competitiveness, where he's from. I mean, he's Oakland born and bred, and Gary Payton, Dame Lillard, guys like that. And I think getting him into that Baylor culture where there's that level of expectation of winning and defense and whatever, I think is going to be good for him. Go ahead, Fanta. You got 15 seconds.
Yeah, I think that for Baylor, I feel like this is like a bad CNN debate. I mean, my God, you're just giving me 15 seconds. In 5 seconds, I'll say this.
Okay, look, I hit pause at 8 seconds. You guys can see that. I paused it at 8 seconds. Go ahead. Fanta, perfect. The floor is yours. It's Fanta Plus right now, 99 cents a month right here. Let's go.
That's cheap. I go over to McDonald's with that. Forget the subscription. Matthew Meyer needs to play at an All-American level for Baylor to be top 5. So you're asking if they stay in the top 5 or 10. I think Meyer's got to take the keys to the car, and instead of this, hey, we've seen in bits and pieces just how high of a motor he plays with, that he could take over. Remember, like last year, it was Sharif Cooper. I think he was giving him the business, and he was just playing so hard. I think Matthew Meyer is someone who he's got to take the keys to this car and not be, what you see in the stat sheet is averages 8 and 5, that he comes in and he's averaging 16 a game for this Baylor team. Their post defense is going to be good. They got a point guard. They need someone who they can give the ball to, who's going to score for them on the wing. I think this is a very deep team. Depth doesn't always translate to being outstanding. You got to find your 7 guys that are really going to take it here to that level. So I like Baylor. They are one of the best programs. I would take Baylor, Nova, Gonzaga, and now even Texas with Chris Beard. I would have taken Texas Tech before over some of the blue bloods in this modern era of the sport. Baylor's not going anywhere, guys. This is not a 1 or 2 hit wonder. Scott Drew's here to stay. He is here to stay.
I think it's going to be a top 20 team moving forward.
Yeah, top 20, not top 5.
Top five's hard because there's so much variance in college basketball right now. I think it's going to be tough, but I think top 20 is completely feasible, especially with the talent they're bringing in with Jeremy. Sochan, the Polish kid that's coming over that played at La Lumiere, Kendall Brown, 6'8", McDonald's All-American, super talented, getting rave reviews coming out of Waco. It's going to keep rolling, and they're going to keep basically getting in the transfer portal because that's what he's done for so long, and they've won a national championship by doing that. And it's what is it, a copycat league? They call that the NBA. It looks like it's starting to turn into a copycat league with all of college basketball because people saw what Baylor did, and now they're starting to adjust, but Baylor just has more experience in doing so. Top 5's tough. Top 15, feasible.
All right.
Look at Lexington. You said adapting. Look at Lexington.